What is the reason for this? And believe it or not, it's about how significant the role of the community is, whether people live for the community or not. If they do, then the happiness index is very high. It can be a smaller community, it can be a larger one. Everyone can find what they enjoy building for themselves. But simply, humans are built in such a way that they need an idea, a value system to strive towards. And I see this today, but not only today, I have seen this for a long time, that many people lack this. In the past, Uncle State helped with this, as there were the 6 points of the Young Pioneers and the 12 points of the Scouts. And even if someone didn't agree with this ideology, those points were quite good. And people lived according to those, or at least tried to. So there was something to adhere to. There was a lot of community life. Today, this doesn't exist, so there are hardly any communities forming where people can meet, communicate, and share joys and sorrows repeatedly, and I see the real way out in this.
Can we only shape our individual fate from this perspective?
The state, by the way, tried to help. For example, they organized opportunities for young people to meet, which also existed in the past, but for some reason this was discontinued.
By the way, I just saw a really good example. I think that there are these speed dating events nowadays, but they even provide a topic. So I saw one where psychology was the theme, and then maybe it's a bit less awkward to attend such an event because there's a basis for conversation. So I think this could definitely be a good direction. And circling back a bit to porn, is there an optimal level of porn consumption that we can say isn't so much that it negatively affects our lives?
That's a good question too. I coined the term quality porn addiction, which goes against the trend. The trend says that if someone has watched porn 2 to 3 times a week in the past 6 months, we declare them a porn addict. I think completely differently, that a porn addict is someone who cannot get aroused or climax without watching porn content, to watch porn content, and it doesn't matter how many times they do it. So I don't approach this quantitatively, but qualitatively.
And in such cases, can this be remedied by complete abstinence? So forget about these sites, don't even look at them, and wait until, let's say, your own imagination and libido return without them?
Many people like this drastic zero-tolerance approach, although I'm not much of a fan of it, but I understand that it helps some people, as many quit smoking this way, smoking yesterday and not today. So this definitely exists, there is such a thing. But porn addiction is not always about porn, and it's not always about sex. What about those addicts who actually didn't get into porn because of sex, or that wasn't their goal, so their aim isn't sexual? The second part of my book hasn't been published yet. I don't know when it will be, but I've written it a long time ago. And in it, I detailed that there are 2 major groups of addicts. One is the sexual addict, and the other is the non-sexual, who uses porn for non-sexual purposes. And surprisingly, there are more of them. So I was able to establish several categories. Now, I'll mention one that is widespread, which won't be surprising, that many use it for stress management as a way to relieve tension.
So it's really like an extra dopamine boost.
I created the boredom category for those who are bored to death, and then, well, I'm bored, so I turn on porn. By the way, this is one of the most difficult cases to handle.
One should find a hobby that provides stimuli, as intense as watching porn.
Yes, but there are other categories as well, though they are shrouded in mystery because I haven't published the book yet.
What will be the title, and when can we expect it?
The title would probably be The 2, so you start with Porn Addiction 2. Not too much imagination. Goes into the title, but I haven't published it yet because I think maybe the time isn't right. Here I am, who is a flag bearer in this field. As I see it, there doesn't seem to be much official interest in this. So I think, yes, people are interested. The book is selling very well. I'm completely satisfied, but I don't see the other side. For example, if the state really wants more children to be born, then it should support sex therapists, especially if someone deals with porn addiction, because without sex, there are no children.
In your opinion, who bears the most responsibility? Say the service providers, the platforms, the content creators, or do the consumers have the greatest responsibility in this?
The platforms. It's completely clear. Because the service provider offers what they want. The content creator produces what they want. The consumer either buys it or not, but the platform is what hosts it. And when I see, whether on Facebook, Instagram, or anywhere else, that every day naked women appear in the stories of various acquaintances, I don't even care. But Facebook just throws the story there. So I don't understand how Facebook can allow this, for example, which is why I blame the platforms.
So, not the porn sites, but social media?
For example, that's a platform, right?
Well, yes, but then Pornhub has the greatest responsibility in this regard, doesn't it, regarding what content they publish?
Okay, but you specifically search for that.
I agree, and I think it's a very big issue, which I also wanted to address, that unfortunately so-called revenge porn has become quite widespread. And as far as I know, Pornhub only recently started taking steps to address this, allowing anyone to upload anything freely. Amateur porn, whether it's about an ex-girlfriend or something that was sent to them confidentially, or even worse, when people's phones are hacked, their personal pictures are practically stolen and used on these sites. Could this be restricted in some way? And in this case, who holds the responsibility?
Many times, various media authorities have tried to influence, whether it's Pornhub, YouPorn, or Xhamster. Temporarily, something can be achieved, but even that very slowly. So there are court proceedings, some of which have been ongoing for years, and some have already concluded. By the way, not in this topic, not in the post-porn topic, but generally in the topic of endangering minors, specifically pedophile content. And no matter why they allow those under 18 to access these sites, despite the complete resistance from Pornhub, YouPorn, and others, there's simply nothing that can be done with them. For example, there is a Czech porn service provider that simply ignores the media authorities' inquiries. They cannot be held accountable. I think that legal regulation would help if there were very, very strict legal stipulations. By the way, let me tell you a more personal story about this. Once a woman contacted me regarding revenge porn, saying that her ex, who lives abroad, posted and sent her nude picture to many of her acquaintances. She had already consulted a lawyer, and the lawyer said there was nothing that could be done. And then I directed her to a lawyer who was able to do something. So I want to say that there is an enormous difference between lawyers, and if one lawyer says nothing can be done, then you should go to another or even a third one, because a solution must be found for these issues. And the legal regulations are extremely lacking in many aspects across different areas of life in Hungary. The fact that it is so tolerant, so permissive, and does not sanction many things that it should is a huge problem. Because of this, people are increasingly emboldened and post more illegal content online. What becomes public, people generally believe to be true. It doesn't even occur to them to question whether it's not true. After all, it is possible, perhaps with the help of AI, maybe not with AI, but with anything else, to edit it in such a way that we put someone's head on a naked body, and then we send it around claiming it's theirs, and this is also allowed.
In any video, absolutely. And then, of course, it arises that it's very difficult to reach the uploaders themselves, so somehow the platforms need to be sanctioned. What you say is very important about the difference between lawyers, and we hope that this information reaches someone who might be affected by this. Because what's also important is that I think anyone can become involved in this, as anyone's content can be misused. And I think many people are not even aware of how big a risk this poses, so it's good that we're talking about it.
Yes, or even defamation or trolling. This word trolling is a euphemism. Well, it's an extremely malicious act. In many cases, defamation ruins the other person. Why isn't there a very strong regulation for this? Why isn't there, for example, a special department set up by the police that specifically deals with online defamation and resolves such cases quickly? These cases should be taken seriously, as such incidents can lead people to even consider suicide. So now, as I was saying, moreover, about suicide. This doesn't belong to this part, but rather earlier, when you mentioned that I introduced the concept of porn addiction to Hungary, there are still those who don't accept it and don't believe it. Once an elderly lady called me on the phone and said she was terribly distressed because of her tenant. A young guy is a porn addict and she can't handle the whole situation anymore, and he's contemplating suicide. And she consulted a renowned psychologist and asked for their opinion on porn addiction. And she mentioned to him that she ordered Somogyi Martina's book on porn addiction. And this Akwoit's head psychologist said that it's nonsense, porn addiction doesn't exist, and advised not to read the book. And after this, the guy got into such a nervous state that he planned to commit suicide. And that's why the lady called me. And this used to happen before, and I'm sure it still happens today.
Returning to the topic of trolling, which obviously can also have serious consequences, we can see that there are many men have a very hard time accessing sex in any form, And because of this, they practically approach this matter with an entitled attitude, as if sex were a basic right, or as if it were a social injustice that not everyone can have sex, or not everyone has the opportunity to have sex. What do you think about this?
Since there are many more women in Hungary, women who are available and capable of having sex than men. Now let's strip this down in a rough and primitive way. Therefore, today a man who can't get a girlfriend should blame himself.
That's a tough, striking statement.
It has never been as easy to get a woman as it is today. Women are more open, also capable of quickly jumping into bed. They expect, enjoy, and desire sex, and there are numerically many more of them. So what is the obstacle for a man to get a woman? Well, look within yourself to see what you are not doing right. And now, once again, let's dispel a very often read spiritual nonsense that always frustrates me. If a woman, usually women write to women, I often read on social media, if a man hasn't worked out for someone for a long time, then this is the reason, and this is the reason, and this is the reason, and this is the reason. And then if I happen to have the energy to comment for the 100th time, I usually write that the reason is statistics. There aren't enough men in Hungary who are capable and suitable for a relationship, who can offer the same as the woman interested in them, or at least complement her, or anything, who add to the woman's life rather than take away. And as long as the statistics are this bad, it is very difficult for a woman to find a partner in Hungary.
It would be very important, yes, to find that mindset, where we can give to the other rather than take away. But I suppose this would also require proper education, and perhaps this could also be the closing question, whether sexual education and awareness can somehow be linked with entertainment content. I highlight these because I believe that most of the masses who watch porn are also on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, and they can be addressed in a way that yields results.
It can actually be done in this way, like what we are doing now, meaning this podcast. I hope that it is both entertaining and informative at the same time, so I think it has been very useful for many people. It would have been ideal if the state did not restrict this. But to my knowledge, according to my latest information, there is still a rule that children cannot be educated about these topics in school. They took away the work of those sex therapists who used to visit schools. Only the parent is allowed to talk to the child about sex, which has huge disadvantages as the parent has their own sexual frustrations and issues, and they will then inadvertently pass these on to the child. A child is lucky if their parent can educate them properly, but many parents either don't do it or do it poorly, and if they don't do it, it wouldn't hurt to at least put a book in the child's hands. This is exactly what my book, How to Handle Porn Addiction, includes. A section for parents that would be great if they showed to their children, so the children could reflect on whether what they see in porn is true or not.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much to Martina Somorjai for the conversation. We can recommend the book, How to Handle Porn Addiction, here to everyone, and of course, the second part when it is released. Primarily, we recommend it to parents, but also to those affected, men, women, anyone who can benefit from it, as it seems there are many such people. If you enjoyed this podcast, then follow us on the Digital Hungary page. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation.